Mother Nature does a pretty good job cleaning up after herself. For farmers, one aspect of that cleansing process, composting, may be an efficient way to deal with inevitable livestock losses. In the poultry industry, composting dead birds has been common for years. Now composting is gaining acceptance as a means of disposal for larger animals such as hogs and sheep.
Well, it's not a whole lot different than a normal composting situation with yard waste. You need the carbon source, you need nitrogen source, and you need some water. And what we have for carbon source in this case is sawdust. Nitrogen source by and large is the animal itself, although we do add manure as well. And of course then we add water to keep the composting process going. And the composting essentially is done by bacteria, although there are other things that are doing it too, but bacteria by and large. And the sawdust over the pile keeps the smell down. It's a biofilter, and it works in a natural way, and you just stand back and let it happen.
4 compost demonstration sites have been established in Minnesota, including a project at the University of Minnesota Southern Experiment Station in Waseca. The sites are cooperative ventures with AURI, the Minnesota Board of Animal Health, the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, and the Minnesota pork producers. Animal mortalities are a fact of farming. No matter the species, a small percentage of poultry and livestock die each year. Finding safe and effective methods for disposal is an issue that all livestock producers contend with. Presently, farmers' disposal choices include sending carcasses to rendering facilities or incinerating or burying on site. While these options are effective, they are not without shortcomings.
Well, it's the most environmental safe procedure that we have. It takes very little resources. The bacteria are doing the work. No fossil fuels are involved. We control it so that there's no leaching into water sources. And the biofilter over the pile is filtering out the majority of the smell. And so it's the most environmentally friendly method there is. Now, as far as biosecurity and things like that, this process is beneficial in that the livestock producer controls the entire thing. That person is not waiting for a rendering truck to come pick up his animals, and biosecurity is safe because of the project.
When properly managed, a compost site is odorless, rodent-free, and non-polluting. The process can even be effective in the middle of a Minnesota winter.
Process, the bacterial action generates heat and gives off moisture, and pile can be started in the winter or proceed through the winter. But the only thing that happens, the inside stays the normal temperature, and the worst that you see is just a little skim coat of some frozen material, and many times even that's thawed and there's enough heat generated. So it's quite amazing. If you don't see it yourself, you wouldn't believe it. And here's living proof that it operates through the winter and effective.
After about 3 weeks in the pile, there's essentially no tissue left. The heat of the pile from the bacterial action is cooking that, as well as the bacterial action itself is forming byproducts of water and carbon dioxide. So the animal itself is probably going to be without tissue in about 3 weeks. And in the same time, the bones are decalcifying, they're breaking down. And so that part takes relatively short time, but for a complete process, you can have it done as quickly as 2 months if you turn it regularly, or as long as 6 months probably after the pile is completely filled.
Composting is an approved alternative for disposing of poultry, goats, sheep, and hogs, and no permits are necessary. All that is needed is a covered site with a pad that's impervious to water. For a producer, that can mean a minimal amount of cash outlay.
This particular structure is very cost effective. It's lightweight, handles winds, provides the necessary cover, allows adequate ventilation from end to end to allow the moisture to leave the structure. And on this particular one that we see right here, it's simply set on concrete, much highway abutments, which are very cost effective and portable as well. So they're just tied together, the structure's set up on top, and the material, compost material, doesn't eat it away. So it's a very viable structure.
For many livestock producers, composting represents a lower cost alternative to rendering or incineration. an alternative that capitalizes on nature's own habit of cleaning up after itself.